in terms of Jim Brown's passing over the weekend, there's a tie to Tennessee that a lot of people may not know that Jim Brown has to Johnny Majors and the Heisman Trophy, of which I don't blame Tennessee fans for hating forever and ever and ever. But what is that? Because you brought this to my attention. I was not aware of this.
So the Heisman Trophy, before Peyton Manning, guys, just over 40 years before 1956, there was another Tennessee player to finish second to Heisman. And I argue that this one was more egregious than even Peyton Manning and Charles Woodson, although that one was pretty egregious. And it was Johnny Majors finishing second to Paul Hornung. Majors was Tennessee's leading rusher and passer in 1956, led them to a 10-0 record, an SEC title, All-American. And he lost it to a guy, a Notre Dame quarterback, who went 2-8 with 3 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in Paul Hornung. Now, the tie is that Johnny Majors, I always used to think that because he finished second, I just go straight to Johnny Majors got completely robbed. But the honest truth is Jim Brown may have been the most robbed player of that Heisman group. Jim Brown at Syracuse finished 5th, and he averaged over 6 yards a carry, had 13 touchdowns. I think it was the 50s, so I think it's fair to suggest there may have been a racial element that kept Jim Brown from being higher and winning that Heisman Trophy. And
at that time, quite possibly.
At that time. And so you ask, in Syracuse, they had a Heisman running back right after Jim Brown. I forget his name, but there's a movie about him he was really, really famous. And it was about, one of the first black players to really make an impact on college football beyond historically black colleges. And he was a really big deal, but basically Jim Brown kind of paved the way for him. But either way, Majors and Brown both got robbed out of that Heisman from Paul Hornung. The question becomes, who deserves it between Johnny Majors and Jim Brown?
The irony of that, too, you take those 3 guys, and you have Johnny Majors, who went on to help a player win a Heisman Trophy, who went on to win a national championship at Pitt, who got rebuilt his home school in Tennessee to a championship level. Didn't quite win that title, but got him back to a championship level. You have Jim Brown, who was just had a phenomenal personal career in terms of Hollywood for players at that time. That just didn't happen. And he was it the Dirty 11 or whatever it was called, or I can't remember the name of the movie that he was in, but he just seemed like another actor. He didn't seem like an athlete trying to be an actor, which was pretty phenomenal. And then the one guy that did end up winning that Heisman that year, which is so funny how history can unfold, he was actually the one that was suspended for gambling at one point on NFL games. So the golden boy was not that golden. I mean, can you imagine something like that happening today? I haven't heard Calvin Ridley's name since he was involved in gambling on FanDuel. Can you imagine, though, back then going and finding a shady bookie? Because that's what you had to do in order to gamble, and being involved with something like that. He had a minimal suspension. Nowadays, you're gone. You're out. You're done, right?
That's true. You're right. That's a very good point. And it speaks to, we talked about this last week. I agree with you. Historically, Notre Dame had the most media love. I just said Florida State in recent years, but Notre Dame had it the most. But Paul Hornung played for 2 teams that were the most beloved by the media. One, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Particularly during this time, the 1950s, got the most preferential treatment you could ever ask for. Then he went to play in Green Bay. And my wife is going to kill me. She's probably hearing me say this right now, but I'm going to say Green Bay gets the most annoying love. Green Bay players get the most annoying shield and protection from the media. And they get covered for so long that when they turn out to be terrible people, we all act shocked. Brett Favre got cover for years when he was really a terrible person. Aaron Rodgers got cover for years when he was an ultimate diva 10 years ago. And we just didn't pay attention because, we love Green Bay, the small town franchise, the fans own the team. And there's just this love fest with Green Bay. And Paul Hornung played for Green Bay the same way he played for Notre Dame. And I think just the concept of that is why he was beloved so much. By the way, I just wanted to point out, I see it on the message boards. Ernie Davis was the guy who won the Heisman after Jim Brown played for Syracuse. He was the first Black Heisman winner. But yeah, Hornung had no business winning that. And for the record, if you guys want to know how disrespected Jim Brown was, Tommy McDonald was third in that Heisman list. He had about 800 yards rushing, 12 touchdowns. But ahead of Jim Brown, an offensive lineman was on the list, Jerry Tubbs for Oklahoma. And how do you have an offensive lineman over a running back? Come on.